My name is Richardo, and this is my coming out story. I first realized that I was gay. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say gay. I first realized that I was different. I think I was about 7 years old um, when I realized that there was something different about me that I just couldn't explain. I knew I didn't necessarily want to play outside with the boys and, roughhouse and, you know, do a whole lot of sports and all this other stuff. I wanted to kind of like do some other things. I don't know. But I also knew that I didn't want to just be in the house like the girls and play with dolls and, you know, play dress up. I just realized that somewhere along the line, I just didn't do the things that was gender specific, if you will. Um, and I felt different. And I knew I was different, and I believed that others around me knew I was different. Um, so for me, I think I was about 7 years old when I realized that I was different. I remember um, putting on my mom's shoes and her wedding dress and pretending like I was getting married. Although I never saw myself as a person of trans experiences, it was fun. And then I kept doing it more and more, and I was like, okay, this seems fun and I like it. Um, and so every time my parents and grandparents weren't home, I would put on my mom's shoes, her heels, and I would walk around the house in heels. um, or when kids have those imaginary places that they go to. And so when you go to your like imaginary place and you're sitting in your makeshift tent, you put the sheets and the pillows and create a fort or a tent. When I did that, I would imagine that my partners or the people who were rescuing me or was camping with me were just men. And when I watch TV shows and I saw like a really cute guy in a movie and he's kissing a woman, I would just kind of like almost like wish I was there so he can be kissing me, but not as a woman. So it was, quite a different experience of myself. But I also grew up in the country where it was frowned upon to even say that you were gay or whatever. So I didn't have any examples of what this was or anyone that I could talk to about it. At least that's what I thought. Um, and so for a very long time, I just kept it to myself. Um, and just try to fight the feelings. Because I would hear things like threats and comments from people about the harm that they would do, and I knew I didn't want to end up in any of those predicaments, so I just, you know, pushed it down inside and focused on school. Um, and then I moved to the United States when I was 14. And it was still kind of like a culture shock in itself. So in between adjusting to life in America, and living in very strong communities that are influenced by Caribbean culture, you still had some of those issues and comments. And while people were less likely to create harm to you or do something that would kill you, in a sense, you still heard the comments and the derogatory terms, and people made mentions of certain things, and the pressure was on. I started going to church, and then it was just constant. I mean, I was probably about 14 or 15 when I started going to church here in America, but there were so many, like almost every couple of months, one of the church ladies would be like, "Do you have a girlfriend? Why you don't have a girlfriend?" It's like, I'm 16. I don't have to have a girlfriend. Like, what the hell? But the pressure wasn't really as rough as like when I became 18. Then the pressure, like from my church community, like got all the way up. It was just like every week after service, one of the church mothers would be on my face talking about marriage and having a wife and all this other stuff. And I was like, I get it. They're out of their concern for me, because I'm sure they heard other members talking or having their own opinions about what they thought of me and who they thought I was. And so this was their version of saving me, I guess. I don't think there was a particular period in time when I started to tell people that I was gay. I started making friends and working in different places, and I think, that gaydar thing, my gaydar just synced up. And I think other people recognize that. And so I was approached a lot. I don't think that there was a time initially starting out when I was like, oh, I'm gay. Because remember, I'm coming from a culture where saying that you're gay means that you can get beaten up or killed or disowned by your family and so many other things. And so for me, saying that felt like I would have been putting that on myself, that burden, that stress. So for a very long time, I never said that I was gay. And I think for straight people who was wondering about me, it left them still wondering to some extent. And I think for some of my non-Caribbean gay friends, they were just like, boy, you're gay, you just don't know it yet. Or when are you gonna come out the closet? And I was like, I'm not in the closet. I know who I am. I know what I like. I know, the type of relationships that I'm having. And for some reason, they still felt like just because I wouldn't say that I'm gay meant that I wasn't being authentic to myself. And for my Caribbean friends who were LGBTQ, they understand the struggle of living in the Caribbean and having to deal with people being homophobic and threats on your life and all of that. So, they understood not saying that I'm gay, but I wasn't saying that I wasn't not saying that I'm gay because I was still in the closet or I'm hiding my sexuality. I wasn't saying it because of all the negative stereotypes and the homophobic and ill will from a cultural perspective that I understood that came with saying that. So I think that was something that went on for a while, and I think I was at like a conference or something, and I was speaking, and I finally said, "Hi, my name is Ricardo, and I'm a gay man from New York City, and I have a question." And I think it shocked me, actually. I was just like, "Wow, I said that," and I was okay. I was fine, because I realized in that moment that I didn't have to be afraid. I didn't have to worry. I didn't have to be scared of who I am and how the world saw me. I just needed to embrace myself and my community, and that's it. So, I am out to whoever sees us and sees me and knows me. And I don't think I have anything remotely that says gay or LGBT. I mean, like bumper stickers or whatever. I know when you see my family, you know that we're a gay couple and we're a gay family. Because you see two men, and we've been married now for about 5 years and counting, and we have been together for about 9 years and counting, and we have two beautiful boys, Michael 12, Rylan 2, and I think it's hard to see us walking in our neighborhood with our kids and not assume that we're gay. If that happens, then bless your heart. For the most part, I think I'm out at work, yeah. To our staff, anyone that we interact with, I think our external partners, I think majority of them will know. It's not something that I make it a point of just saying, "Hey, I'm Ricardo, I'm gay, and welcome to," No, it's, I think people who don't know me and haven't met me tend to kind of like get to know me first, and then they kind of feel comfortable asking about family and that kind of stuff. And I make no qualms with saying that I'm a gay man. I'm married to my beautiful husband, and I have two beautiful kids. Well, we have two beautiful kids actually, and they are really amazing and awesome every day, all day, every day. Okay? It's really not important for me to be out everywhere I am as a gay man. I'm a gay man, so I'm doing this. I'm a gay man. Here I am. I think that my work speaks for itself. So when I'm in a work capacity, I my capacity and my skill sets pertaining to the work that I'm doing speak for itself. Is it supported by the fact that I'm a gay man? Yes. Does that contribute to the work that I do? Absolutely. But is it the primary reason why I do the work that I do? Absolutely not. And so I think it's important for me to kind of like be just me, Richardo, in all of the environments that I'm in. And then the ones who I choose to unveil myself to, for whatever the reasons are in that moment, must have a purpose and a reason. Funny enough, even though I knew I was different at 7, I didn't come out to my parents. I think my parents just kind of like opened the door, or let me say, not say my parents, my mom opened the door and was like, "You coming out today or what? Because we're gonna have this conversation." Um, I don't think it was willingly. I think she and my sister had gone into some argument about something, and my mom said something about um, having children and not being married or something of the sort like that. And I think my sister's response was, well, at least I'm not gay. And I guess my mom kind of like finished that conversation, but then immediately called me and she was like, Richard. It's usually what she calls me whenever like there's like this like revelation of new information, or like there's like an emergency. It's like very dramatic, Richard. And I was like, my name's Richardo. What's the problem? She's like, Richard, I was just talking to your sister, and we were talking about something, and I said to her about kids, having kids, not being married. And she said, well, at least I'm not gay. And she's like, well, I know it's not your middle brother, and I know it's not your little brother. And she wasn't talking about herself. And I was just like, and mind you, this was over the phone. I was in New York City. She lived in Florida at the time. And I was like, what the hell? So now I'm like stuck, right? Um, she, I felt in that moment like my world was either going to be taking on the next level, or I was going to end up losing my entire family. And in that moment, I had to decide, do I keep this information and say, no, I'm not, and keep moving forward? Or do I just say yes and let and just deal with whatever the fallouts may be? I mean, the greatest fallout would be that my mom would disown me as her son. 'Cause so many Caribbean kids And people go through that where their families disown them just for being gay. And it's so sad. And so I had to think about that. Or like, do I want to be disowned by my mom? And in that moment, I said, yes, I am gay. And she paused. I think she must have taken like a deep breath or something like that. And I don't know. It seemed that moment, it felt like the world stopped moving. I don't know, it just felt like so much time had passed by, even though it was like a few seconds. But it just was, I don't know, it just felt longer than it really was. She was just like, and then she just kind of like made sort of like a joke or whatever. She was just like, well, I told your sister, well, at least the gays have rights. I was like, what does that have to do with anything? I was like, what does that have to do with anything? And then she's like, she asked me two questions. She's like, so are you letting another man put his penis in your anus? She didn't say it that nice though. It was so raunchy the way she said it. That was the clean version. And I was like, I'm not gonna answer that question. And so she was like, so are you putting your penis in another man's anus? And I was like, I am not answering that question. And she paused again. And then then she came back and she started talking about some other stuff. Because it was close to the holiday times. I think it was close to Christmas. And we were talking. And then I said to her, well, I have to go back to work, so I'll talk to you later. And she was like, all right, I'll talk to you later, like very regular, no problems. And we got off the phone. And then she called me right back and she's like, when are you coming down for Christmas? And I'm like, I'm coming for Christmas and I'm bringing my partner with me. And she paused. She didn't say anything. And then I said, okay. And she said, okay. And that was that. I think that I'm very comfortable with my sexuality, actually. I think and how I identify. I think being in certain areas or among certain people definitely does make it a little bit harder and challenging. But for the most part, I am 100% satisfied. Satisfied is not the word. I'm 100% fine with being who I am. So there are times when I was on my path to being who I am, where I just didn't feel the need to come out to certain people. Not because I was afraid or anything like that, but because I really didn't care what they think. I think the only people who mattered to me was my parents and my immediate family. I think everybody outside of that was just extra. And most importantly, what matters most is what I thought about me. So I think in that sense, in terms of coming out to people, I didn't set to come out to anyone actually. I think the only person who I've actually had to have a discussion with about coming out, or have had a discussion with about coming out, was my mom and my dad. Everybody else was just extra. It was like, this is what it is, accept it or not. But the one thing that is going to happen is that I'm going to respect you the same way you respect me. And I think a lot of folks in my family knows that. Um, if they show their ass, I will show my ass. And that's that. So I think for the most part, I think everybody is kind of just went to their corner. And I think, as I mentioned before, when I'm at work, is it necessary to getting the point across? Is it important enough to help a client be who they are? Or is it, going to enhance the situation? So I don't think that it's necessarily something where it's just running out there saying, oh, I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay, and I'm free, and I'm proud, and yay. No, I think it's more of like, I am Richardo when I'm at home. I'm the same Richardo at work. I'm the same Richardo when I'm out hanging out with my friends. I'm the same Richardo when I'm out hanging out with families. I think for the most part, everybody seemed to have come to a place where they just accepted and just move forward. And for those who don't accept it, I guess they don't come around, and it doesn't really matter to me. And I'm not like trying to say it in a way where it's like I don't care about family or whatever the case is. But what I will not accept is a substandard kind of love from my family, where it's, I'm gonna love you because you are related to me, but I'm not gonna accept the fact that you're gay or your relationship or whatever that is. And I think that is something that I necessarily feel like I have to explain myself at this point to any of my family members. I feel like if you've known me and spent time with me over the last 5 years, 10 years, you would have known that I am a gay man, and you would have met my husband, and you would have met my family. And so for those people who are part of my family who have had those experiences, they've walked away with different perspectives. So I'm not outing myself to clarify any like religious whatever, or to be an example or be a martyr or whatever the case is. I'm not trying to do any of that stuff. Basically, I'm just living my own authentic self. And if my family members or people in the community want to be stuck in the 1980s and the 1970s, and they want to hold on to these beliefs that, around or about LGBT people that are just not real and are just stereotypes and are just made up ideology, fine, go ahead, believe that ignorant stuff and miss me with it. Like, I don't have to be at Thanksgiving. I don't need an invitation. I think that comes to a whole different level when you have an understanding of who you are. And I will not subject my family to pretending or being in a space where we're not welcome 100%. And if that's the case, then I won't be there. Sorry. And I feel like that's a two-way street, because I wouldn't invite you to my home and then have someone disrespect you or make you feel less than or talk crap about your family, regardless of what it is. And so I'm not going to subject myself to that or my family if it's not a two-way street. I think that initially when it was clear that I was gay, a lot of comments from my mom was like, I just want to have grandkids. I think for some reason she felt like she wouldn't be able to. And then I think from others, they saw me and was like, oh, aren't you in your 30s now? Shouldn't you have kids? When are you gonna have kids? And like almost like this clock is running out, right? And then when we became foster parents, then the opinions were like, are you sure you want to become foster parents? And what are you gonna tell the kids about you being gay? What are you gonna tell the kids about your relationship? And I was just so lost a little bit. I was like, what do you mean what I'm going to tell them? We are who we are, and our relationship is what it is. And so, and we were able to foster 2 kids and adopt them into our family and creating our own beautiful family. And everyone who has met them have felt completely in love with them. And it's just an amazing experience. I think initially, us having kids was different. I think a lot of people had questions about like, well, how are they going to mother the child and definitely father the child, and and I think a lot of that went out the door once they've met us and realized that we can be both soft and nurturing as well as being tough and engaging. And I think that that's different. When he needs hugs, he gets plenty of hugs. When they need hugs and kisses, I should say, they got plenty of hugs and kisses. Whenever, they have a boo-boo or they didn't win a game or my little monster like trip over something, it's not just, oh, suck it up, get up and do it again, whatever. But we have conversations. We're changing the way parenting was handed down to us, and in a way that's more meaningful and complete. And so it's not just you get this part of it from your mom and you get that part of it from your dad. It's like you have 2 beautiful parents who love and care about you, and you're getting your 100% from both of them. And so that makes them stronger, makes them more independent, makes them more capable of surviving this world. And I think a lot of people had some objections about us fostering and adopting kids, but I think all of those kind of like just went away with time. people were less likely to question us or ask us. I think now we get more questions about parenting tips and, how do you deal with this and how do you deal with that? And to just kind of like start to have those conversations, I think helped us to recognize that there have been a shift in how they thought about our ability to parent as two gay men in a relationship who were married. And we did it right. We dated for 2 years, we got engaged for 2 years, we got married, and then about a year or so after being married, we decided that we're going to become foster parent to one and then two, and then we adopted them, and our family is complete. Or is it? The Hubs want to have one more. I don't know when or how yet, but that's the plan. So we'll see what happens. It is a beautiful thing. I just think about, and I think that's what my Hubs think about too, is how we are going to continue to impact or have a meaningful impact in our kids' lives, regardless of what people think, feel, or say. Because at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's really about them and their success. We have a few friends who are same gender loving, and some of them have kids. Some of them are also foster parents. But what we do is that we spend so much time around different varieties of parents. So we spend time around parents who are same gender loving, have diverse different cultural backgrounds, also heterosexual parents who are allies. And I think that allows our kids to have an amazing experience of like, you don't have to be just one way in the world, that you can just, what's important is finding someone who's going to love and protect you and protect your heart, and someone who's going to stand with you in the good times and the bad. And I think that's a different experience and conversation than it is to just find a wife, find a husband. It's about the journey. So yeah, we have, a good network of people that we know who are same gender loving parents and non-same gender loving parents that we hang out with on a regular basis, and our kids are able to play and hang out and have fun and be kids, and it's okay. So I think that we're at two different stages, right? When our first son came to live with us, he was about 8 years old. And so, of course, he's coming into this family knowing already that we're two men who are in a relationship together. And I remember that conversation very clearly because he didn't realize that we were gay. And I remember saying something to him. Someone said something at school to him, actually, a comment that said, "That's so gay," or whatever it was. And so he was telling me, and I said, sometimes people say things to hurt other people's feelings, but it doesn't mean that that's who they are. And I said, but your dad and I, we're gay. And he was like, no, you're not. And I was like, what do you mean, no, we're not? And it was like, no, you guys just love each other. And for a second, I had to think to myself, like, wow, here's a kid who just thinks that you can just honestly just love each other. And it isn't about being gay or not. Ta-da. I felt like he was ready to, teach the world something. So we had a conversation about that, and, you know, did very poorly at convincing him that I was truly a gay man. And so as soon as the Hubs came home, he ran to him downstairs and was like, Daddy, are Daddy, I'm Daddy 1, and the Hubs is Daddy 2. And he says, Daddy 1 said that you guys are gay. And before he even answered, all I heard was, babe. And I came running downstairs, and so we sat down and we had a discussion, and we allowed him to ask questions. And I was like, yeah, we're gay, and it's okay, because people have different families, and people, do different, they love different people, and it's okay. And in that moment, he was just like, it doesn't matter to me. All that matters is that I love you guys and you guys love me. And we like hugged it out, and it was just so amazing. And a couple weeks later, he is saying, we're sitting down, and he says, I want to marry, and he mentioned this guy's name, this other little boy's name. And I said, you want to marry him? And he was like, yeah. And I said, when I grow up, I want to marry him. And I said, why? And he said, because I want to have the same love like that you guys have, and how you guys care for each other. And I said, okay, Michael. I said, but I don't think you want to marry this other person. I think that when you grow up, you should find someone who's going to love you and protect your heart the same way that I love Daddy 2, and Daddy 2 loves me, and the same way we protect each other's heart. And he was like, whew, because I really like girls. And so it was just interesting that he thought that in order for him to have the love that he had experienced or seen, that he had to be with someone of the same gender to have that same love. And so when we talked about it, it was like, no, you can find be with whoever you want, as long as that person is going to love and protect your heart the same way you're going to love and protect their heart, and you'll be fine. And in that moment, like his whole, like, whatever he thought, like, lifted, and he was able to just be. And so I think it might end up being a little bit of a different conversation for a 2-year-old, because he's been living with us now since he was like 8 days old. And I feel like he has a different level of being around us and growing with us that I don't think that it's be a shocker or like this intense conversation. I think it will more than likely be automatic. I would be very shocked if we had to have like an all-out conversation for like a couple of hours around this. I think with him just growing up, growing into the family, seeing us on a daily basis, being in our lives, we in his lives, I feel like that's going to be a whole different experience and a whole different next level that doesn't require as much. But we would definitely stress to them that it's important to find someone who's going to love them and care for them the same way they're going to love and care for that person. And also to understand that we're a family that fights for equality. We're a family that believes everyone should have access, whether or not they need it or not. And that people, regardless of who they are, deserve to be respected, regardless of how they identify or present themselves or who they love. Thank you for watching my coming out story. Like, share, and subscribe.